no less than Chuck Schumer, says Democrats are free to do an end run around Republicans, so damn the consensus. And they wonder why folks are furious. My first guest says that prominent Democrats needn't look at slumping poll support for health care today as much as they should understand something more basic: the American people, and more to the point, the history of the American people. Jane Hampton Cook, historian and author of Battlefields and Blessings, joins us right now. So, Jane, we make a big deal of Americans getting all hot and bothered, but they have a history of getting hot and bothered, don't they?
That's right. I mean, freedom of speech goes back to the founding of our nation. Samuel Adams sent a letter calling for no taxation without representation. He sent it to all the assemblies throughout the 13 colonies. And what did the government do? The government said, shh, don't say that. And they asked him to recall his letter. And he said no. And that just fueled the debate because it showed the government wasn't listening. And so I think it's very important for Americans to express their opinion, whether it's quietly or loudly, as we're seeing right now.
Lately, it's been loud, and lately, it's been getting louder. Democrats and Ms. Pelosi and Steny Hoyer argued in this column today, nothing gets done in that environment. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it shows that they're not really listening to what people are saying. And, Samuel Adams said that a man's property is his industry. And if you try to take that away, that's not freedom. And I think the reason why you're seeing such loud emotion is that we're talking about health care, people's health, people's bodies. And so that's why this is such an emotional debate. And I think they would do better to listen to what people are saying. And I think that would actually go a lot farther in softening the debate.
Do you think, though,
they just listened?
Very good point, Jane. But do you think people at home looking at these rallies are saying, well, they are a little over the top. They are a little agitated. We're not making progress here. So that the very rallies that were prompted by scorn of what this health care package might be about might boomerang on the very people doing the protesting?
Well, it could, but I think there are also people out there who are calling their congressman or congresswoman and expressing their opinion through petitions and other kinds of protests that we're just not seeing. And that's what happened during the revolution. There were a lot of petitions and quiet protest as well as throwing tea over a boat into the water. So it's just, it's in our history, we have a lot of different types of protesting. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of loud protesting right now.
Jane, you're the historian here. I mean, in the past, though, when Americans have been upset about something, they've hardly been genteel or quiet or nice about it. Now, it seems this generation of politicians can't really take that or appreciate the gravity of that, so they dismiss it and they dismiss the protesters. When in the past it has happened, or there have been people similarly getting agitated at Washington, what's happened?
Well, sometimes it promotes change and people get listened to. I mean, women got suffrage because of the loud protesting of the lack of women's rights for voting. And so, it could just be we live in such a media age that there's embarrassment when a congressman or congresswoman goes to a town hall meeting and someone disagrees with them very vocally and emotionally. So I think that's why there's some resistance, and that's why there's maybe an effort to shut it down, because it's so visual and it's so apparent on our television sets.
But in the cases of prohibition or slavery, or I read even back to the Louisiana Purchase, when we expanded our lands, Americans were concerned who was going to be responsible for policing these lands and watching over them. How long, A, does it last, and B, what's the effect on those on whom the wrath was being directed?
Well, I think it backfires on those who aren't listening, who represent the government. They don't get reelected in many cases. It puts an impression in people's minds that, hey, I elected someone who's not listening to me. And I think that that's not a good thing for the elected officials. I think they would really do a lot better to listen, or to at least show that they're listening somehow. And by trying to say, hey, this is un-American, that's labeling a group of people who are just legitimately expressing their concerns about health care reform. And so I think they really would just go a long ways to just simply listen and just kind of be quiet about it and take it in and really use it constructively instead of just trying to clamp it down, because it will backfire on them.
Jane Hampton Cook,
in my opinion.
Thank you very much. Good perspective, history and otherwise on this.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, forget screaming. My next guest says the best thing Republicans can say now is nothing at all. Just shut up and watch the Democrats implode. He's David Johnson. He's CEO